Alright everyone, it's that time of the week, late Wednesday night in Glasgow, early Thursday morning in Melbourne, when we welcome Stevie back onto the channel, that wonderful cheery face to get you going for the new day. Stevie, you must be, I know you don't read a lot into pre-season games, right? I get that, we'll probably get onto that as well, people will know that about you, and you're not alone in that. But you must be getting a little bit excited about this Celtic team with the way they're playing so far.
Believe it or not, I was pleasantly surprised when I saw the highlights this morning. A week after work with childcare, so naturally I need my sleep, Hamish. So I woke up about 11:30 or something, neglecting the Wayne's breakfast and that, because it's all about me getting a good sleep, as you know. We can maybe talk about my partner and all that as well later on about when it came to watching the game and everything too. But
Yeah, yeah.
no, honestly, it's a joke by the way. I did get up early, but when I woke up, first thing I did, topped him and all that. Did check the highlights, and I was very surprised, pleasantly surprised with how we played. I checked the chat with you and a few others, and I saw there was some sarcastic moans about conceding 3 goals. But I mean, Man City did have some right talented players up top, at least. Certainly not in
Yeah.
defence. So what I saw up top, I can't really criticise too much, but I guess we'll touch on it. But Kuhn, I thought was superb. Furuhashi's goal was a cracker, and in general, we looked pretty sharp going forward. As I say, I mean that we're not going to get, excuse me, that amount of space against like Kamala. You know they'll just have every man behind the ball at Man City. Are never going to have a low block like we.
Derek McInnes' team won't
I
come
know,
out and play, will they?
I know. So you're gonna sorry, mate, get some water just in case you faint there. But yeah, honestly, as much as I don't look into that too much, like the same way where I spent my evening on Wednesday, just there watching a certain team in a friendly humbled down in England. I don't think you can read again way too much into that. It's all about next weekend, really. That's when the real stuff starts. But yeah, it's always good to wake up and see that Celtic have actually won as opposed to getting humbled and getting battered off one of these teams. So well done. And it looks as if like all the players have fully bought into things so far. I know that obviously form can go out the window, you can get injuries, and we're not going to see all the players playing and every week. But it's certainly the ones so far that have been playing in pre-season, they look as if they're fully sharp and fully focused so far. And I think that's all you can really ask just now anyway, Hamish, is for the players to be professional, up for it, and they have been so far to their credit.
Yeah, the attitude seems good. We're scoring plenty of goals. Obviously, none of it really matters until we kick off against Kilmarnock. But as far as pre-seasons go, it's been a pretty good one so far. As you know, Stevie, a lot of die-hard fans, many of them fans of this channel, would have been staying up for the game on Wednesday night. It was just before 1 a.m. It kicked off. The real die-hard fans, stayed up probably till, I don't know, 3 a.m. later. What were you doing at that time?
No, I was in my bed. Don't worry about that. It's one of the highlights of my day is just put my head in the pillow and just fall into sleep. And I was don't see any game like that. Don't care who we're playing in, friendly especially. I'm never staying up for that. I'm never managing. But there are the top Tims among us, Hamish, yourself included, that manage to stay
Well,
up no
it's the
matter
middle
what.
of the day for me. I,
I
I,
know,
I guess if you're talking about other games, I guess that's fair
aye.
enough. But
Look, I guess competitive. If it was a competitive game, I think that might be different for me. I might take a few coffees or Red Bulls and power through it. But for friendlies, it ain't happening. But see, everyone amongst us who can stay up and power through all that in the early hours, I do salute you because it's not an easy task.
there was someone in the comments yesterday saying they hadn't been to sleep at all and were working the next day. I mean, that's just either incredible commitment or very daft behaviour. I'd love to know how your shift went yesterday, so please let me know. Yeah, I mean, I kind of touched on all the main points yesterday, so that there's no point in going into all of them again. I guess Nicholas Kuhn would be the obvious one. I'm less focused on his performance the other night, as good as it was. And as I said yesterday, Stevie, now I just want to see consistency from Nicholas Kuhn. I want him to try and nail down that right wing position. By the way, I think, a separate point is James Forrest, I think, has looked really good in pre-season so far. Obviously, he had that run against DC United. I think, he didn't really do... He had one run against Man City where he kind of crossed it and Ederson tipped it away. But I thought he looked really assured and confident in possession. So he looks to me like he's ready to have a good season as well. So suddenly if Kuhn can kind of keep, maybe not that level, but something close to that level, we suddenly have options on that right wing.
Yeah, I think as well, you've got to also be prepared for the fact that guys like Kuhn, and even if we can't be relying on James Forrest for a lot of the weeks of the season ahead, that's just unrealistic, but he can be a massive impact player for us. I think by default, you're looking at Nicholas Kuhn to cement that place out in the right wing, but you've also got to accept the fact that there's going to be games where he's just not in it. As a classic cliche, isn't about wingers and consistency, but also it doesn't have to be because, I mean, when you look at Daisen Maeda at night, I mean, generally he puts in more good performances than not.
Jota.
Most weeks as well, and yeah, of course, Jota too. So yeah, you're looking for Kuhn to disprove that theory, but we saw it last season as well. There were games that he was just not in whatsoever, and then he was shining in the matches that you would generally expect most Celtic players to do, like St Johnstone, Livingston a couple of times too. But then he pops up with a really important goal in a big game, semi-final, of course, at Hampden against Aberdeen too. And I know that he had that wisdom tooth pain as well, didn't he? That was really unsettled him when he came in. And I'm pretty sure you did say in one of your videos, and there was something to do with getting his own bed and all that as well. And now, listen, as a natural sleep fan here, I can sympathise with him. So hopefully he has settled into that big bed he has now, and he's getting a grip with his performances. But no, hopefully again Sunday, I'd like to actually see him against Chelsea, starting that and see if he can kick off like how he left against Man City. Promising, but as you say, it's all about the real game next weekend against Kilmarnock onwards. It's all about seeing if he can be consistent, because it's all right. How many times have we seen players in pre-season look as if they're going to actually kick on and do a job for us? And like one of the prime examples, I would say, last season, I remember seeing pre-season. I thought against the Athletic Club, he looked terrific. I remember putting a post on Instagram at the time saying I think O is going to be a big player for us. Just on his performances in pre-season alone, he looks sharper, looks fitter, positionally. He was drifting left, he was drifting right. He just looked as if he was picked up a lot. More. He was certainly looking more smarter on the pitch in terms of like picking up positions and all that. And I thought this guy is going to be dynamite for us. Didn't quite work out that way. For a number of reasons, of course, just with the fact that Farashi scored that goal at Ibrox, never looked back, and then we brought Anita. But yeah, we all know it can obviously turn sour, and it's about how you react to these things as well, Hamish. But I'm really hoping that Kuhn has a really strong season, and that will only give him plenty of confidence the other night.
I mean, it is like a cliche, and I think Brendan Rodgers was asked about, the cliche of it being like a new signing, but he could be for us. I mean, I think we all feel we need a winger. I think it seems to be a left winger people are looking at, probably because we maybe don't have as much faith in someone like Lewis Palmer, who, to be fair, has now scored a couple of goals in recent matches. End of last season, Trophy Day, wasn't it? And obviously scored the winner against Man City at the back post. So maybe he's showing kind of signs that he's able to get in at the back post and score goals as well. But if Kuhn's able to really start the season well, it would be like a new signing, because it's not necessarily a player. I'll be honest, prior to Wednesday, and even now I have doubts about Kuhn. And I doubt he's watching this. I'm not saying this to try and inspire Kuhn in any way, but I just have doubts about him being able to find consistent form. I think he's capable of really good things, incredible things like we saw on Wednesday. But I'm laying the gauntlet down, Stevie, to Nicholas Kuhn, and I want to see that consistently. Because if we see that consistently, he's going to be a star for us, and he can have the kind of impact Jota had for us. If he's playing like he did on Wednesday, he will be that player for us. So he needs to kick on from that. No more 4 or 5 game periods of looking lost out there like he did at the end of last season and when he first came in. He needs to hit that consistently. Right, a few comments I want to go through. KP Boy Watch the game in ESPN, great attacking and sharpness. Hopefully keep that style throughout the season. However, please board, get your money out ASAP. That's something I say to you quite often. We're out for drinks, isn't it? Get your money out. Clearly, Brendan Rodgers needs the tools to significantly improve this squad and make great progress in Europe. League defence kicks off in 10 days. Where's the left back, centre back, right back, midfielder, 2 wingers and 2 centre forwards? Yeah, you might be struggling for all that, KP. Board back Rodgers. We'll come on to the transfer stuff later on. Mike 2000. In terms of a left back, it's not a choice, it's a necessity because we only have Taylor. I noticed Rodgers playing UK at left back in one of the games. No thanks. If we don't sign a left back, are we recalling Bernabe? I'd rather give Framer Anderson a shot if that's the case. Matt Anderson, you won't have seen this, Stevie, but Matt Anderson looks like he has something about him. Colby Donovan in the right back position as well. Donovan is 17, Anderson is 20. I like the look of both of them. They both seem to have a decent physique as well, so we might see a bit of them this season. Probably more Anderson than Donovan. Mojo Rising, Scales and Welsh have a mistake in them, but the bomb scare Starfelt was always praised. Weird opinions, mate. Mojo, come on. Starfelt was a better player than Scales and Welsh.
Starfelt was fantastic for us. I don't agree with that at all. I agree with you.
Thank you. Thanks for backing me up. You could have taken his side then and said it was a weird opinion from me.
No, I'd like to, believe me, trust me. Personally, I don't like you, but professionally, I guess, I think that's the right opinion from you. Starfelt was great, and this is from a guy, took about maybe 3 or 4 months for me to fully be won over by Starfelt, but Starfelt was a terrific Celtic signing, no doubt about it. It was very, very unfair to put him in the same category as the likes of Scales and Welsh. That's criminal, so to speak.
Okay. Lloyd H pointing out AJ Alistair Johnson was in the stands based on this Instagram story. So he is in the United States, Alistair Johnson, which I was kind of surprised at. From what Rodgers was saying, he was going to wait and get us back in Scotland. I don't know if that means he might be in training. I know the team have got an intense, hard training session today, Stevie. Brendan Rodgers was saying. So will Johnson be part of that? Will he play against Chelsea? I kind of feel like no, but he's probably just out supporting the guys. I guess he's from Canada as well, so he may have been travelling home and thought I'll stop in and see the team. Right, a few other bits of news and then we'll talk transfers. Ben Siegrist is away, Stevie. Officially signed for Rapid Bucharest, a 2-year deal, working with Neil Lennon. That's been confirmed.
I would say thanks for the memories, but what memories? Honestly, there was a couple of cup games, I believe, maybe a friendly against Blackburn. That one I was on the telly. Oh yeah, remember that one? After 30 seconds, 2 each straw.
You were in telly?
I was in telly.
Was that the one when Blackburn scored after like 10 seconds?
Aye, and I was halfway through eating my pie, and I was like, what's this? What's this? Can I believe it?
Can I find this footage somewhere? Because if so, I'm going to find it and post it on screen.
I'll send it to you if you want after this. Don't worry about
that. Okay. Right, it's on screen now, everyone. Ha 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 ha.
Thank you, Hamish. I know, it's not in a snidey way. I'm like, was it worth him leaving Dundee United to come to us for 2 years and do essentially nothing in his career, suffering? Although I'm sure his bank balance didn't. Anyway, that's another tangent. Look, he's away now. Didn't do anything to offend me. Fair play to him. All the best. We move on.
Fair enough. We had this image shared by Lisbon Lion on X, formerly Twitter. It shows some work that's been done to the away end at Celtic Park in preparation for a certain team and other teams having away fans at Celtic Park this season. So work going on at the stadium. It may look slightly different if you're in that part of the ground. And you'll be back there next weekend, Steve. You must be excited about getting back to the ground.
By the way, I was there a couple of days ago seeing one of your friends there too. And I actually saw that work getting done.
How is Peter?
He's fine. I had to buy him a coffee when he put his on his pocket. Yeah, it will be good for the team when they come away from the USA back into Scotland and focus on good old domestic football. Has been missed, but the Euros has been a big help as well, hasn't it? But yeah,
Yeah.
I will be there, although it's going to be as soon as the game's done. Going to have to go and pack a suitcase, Hamish, because I'm going to sunny Italy on the Monday morning. But
All right.
yeah, so I'll have to get a wee quick video done for you. But do you know what I might do? See, because I'm only able to get a video that week when I'm away, I might take one for Venice just to annoy you. Send my thoughts and all that for there. Glugging an Aperol spritz. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. Nice city, apparently. Smells a bit, apparently. That's what I'm
But enough
hearing.
about Glasgow.
Fabulous. As you've
Thank you.
already alluded to, Stevie, former Celtic assistant Chris Davies has got the better of Rangers again last night. His Birmingham City side, he's now manager of Birmingham City. They beat Rangers 2-1. I see that great manager Philippe Clement did his press conference, left, and then came back to tell everyone that Todd Cantwell would be leaving this summer after he handed in a transfer request. Cantwell, Stevie, is off to the B team for now. Connor Goldson, James Tavernier appear to be leaving as well. This is a Celtic podcast, but they don't appear to be in the best state, do they, right now? Their fans are far from happy. And usually pre-season is the time when they win things, isn't it?
Yeah, usually it's the bluster and bravado starting in pre-season before the old cycle in October and November. But aye, as you said, look, things can change very quickly in football, as we know. We're not in a great place at the moment. We're okay, but we could be in an even better position, and that's hopefully where we'll be at the end of the transfer window. I mean, before the game against Kilmarnock, I'd like to see more signings. Highly doubt it, Hamish, and I've resigned myself to accepting that it's probably going to be a good few weeks before we see players coming indoors. I don't think we're going to rush anything for the Kelly game. I think that now we've got a strong enough squad, certainly for the visit of Kilmarnock at Celtic Park. But I think something that, I'm feeling really strongly about this season, and I think I might be in the minority here, and I don't even think that my personal thoughts on it reflect how the Celtic board and the Celtic staff and players and management maybe feel there. But I really do want to see us sign players for Europe. I want to take it ultra seriously. I want us to be treating Europe as seriously as how we would treat domestic football. I think for the fact that it is, and a lot of people will be laughing at this, going, look at your record there and everything. But, this is the season to stop it, to try and squash that record, because it's been terrible. Let's no lie about it. It's been absolutely shocking. And this could be the last season that we are automatically right into the Champions League.
It is. Next season we've got qualifiers.
And I just love us if we went and took this ultra seriously. And will we though? I don't know. It's hard to tell. You look at it historically. Have Celtic really bought players for Europe in the past? Like, certainly in the last few years, no, I wouldn't say so. It's been all domestic players, hasn't it? That it's all just for dominance in the league, and haven't really seen us go out and really pushing the boat out to bring in a quality European player. So I'd love the board, I'd love the club to prove me wrong. I can't see it now, but it's something that I'm still hoping that I'm seeing in the next few weeks, Hamish, because I can't stress how much that I've, like many Celtic fans, I've just had enough of seeing us underperform in Europe. And I'd love this to be the last season that I'm witnessing it again and going right on that old deja vu of moaning about it and then getting over it after a few weeks to focus back in the league again. Sick and tired of it. But it remains to be seen, because this is Celtic we're on about after all.
Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of comments, obviously, doing this channel, doing the Celtic Way stuff as well, and obviously the forums, and you're certainly not alone. I would say the vast majority of fans this season have that view. I think Celtic fans are fed up of our European record and us going into these games and either being soundly beaten and thrashed in some occasions, or actually playing quite well but still coming up short. I think that was last season, like for example, the Lazio game that we played really well and should have won. and didn't win, but didn't draw either. Lost it late on. That hurt me more than the Atletico Madrid 6-0 away from home, for example. Because you should never be losing 6-0, but that can maybe happen away from home against the elite teams. They're that good. That kind of game at home to Lazio, where, as I say, we played well and should have won that game, but the fact we lost it late on was really tough to take for me. That was a real moment where I just thought this Celtic team just don't have it in Europe. I think at this kind of juncture, looking back at that European campaign, I think there were a lot of positives in a lot of the performances. I actually think it was significantly better last season than it was the previous season under Ange Postecoglou. I think it was probably a tougher group last year as well. Maybe marginally, but I just thought we were in more games. I thought we should have maybe won more games. I felt the previous season, probably Shakhtar Donetsk away aside, were kind of outclassed in every game. Even Shakhtar at home, we should probably have lost that. I felt last year we could conceivably have picked up. I think we got 4 points. We could have had 7-8 points last season. So I hope that there's a continual improvement this season. But we need players. That's the bottom line. That there's certainly talent, and that team. Rodgers has them playing well. We saw that on Wednesday night. We can kind of go with and play against good teams, even though City were missing a lot of players. But we need real quality in positions. Left back, we need an upgrade on Greg Taylor, and I feel weird saying that because I really like Greg Taylor. And I think Greg Taylor has been a good player for Celtic over the probably 3, 4, 5 years he's been at the club. And I'm not saying sell Greg Taylor, I'm saying upgrade on Greg Taylor. Because if we're going to be serious about this, we need to be ruthless. We certainly need a centre-back partner for Cameron Carter-Vickers because Liam Scales, Stephen Welsh, Mike Naropski, Gustav Lagerbielke, I'm not convinced any of them really have it. Maybe Naropski does. I'd have the highest hopes for him, but he can't stay fit. And we need to replace Matt O'Reilly if he leaves as well.
It's almost like when you're saying things like this, like we need to do better than Greg Taylor. It's almost like a wee part of you sometimes think, there's like a guilt there, isn't there? It's almost like you're saying, like, what these guys have won for us and how well they've played for us, and that's fine. It's good to acknowledge that.
I always imagine myself, if I was Greg Taylor, watching a channel like this, and I've done really well for Celtic and led Celtic to so many trophies, and then you've got a guy like me sitting there saying, we need to do better than Greg Taylor. And I always just think, like, it's a bit disrespectful because Greg Taylor's been a good player for Celtic. He's a winner. Compare him to some of the guys across the road at Ibrox. Greg Taylor is superior to them in so many ways as a winner. But I just feel at the European level, which is where we really want to measure ourselves, I think we need better in that position.
I know, I'm the same. Like, I sometimes imagine like some of these players, how well they've played. It's a very difficult job, having to perform every week with the pressure at Celtic that is enormous. And these guys have just won a double, and then they've seen a fat balloon like me going, no, he needs to be better and he needs to be better. And it's true, let's not kid ourselves. But at the same time, that is fan culture. I mean, when you're a supporter of a club, like, you constantly want to see your team doing better, and then that's it. It's like the guilt in your head goes, am I being a wee bit harsh? But then you're like, no, you're not, because as a supporter, like, you genuinely want to see your team doing better. I've mentioned before the amount of money that the supporters plough into the club. With that money that's ploughed in and the profit they make, Celtic, there's no excuses for Celtic not to upgrade some of the okay or average players that we've got, and that's what I would say guys like Scales and Taylor are. And there's not just them, there's a lot more that I would say that are just okay. They do a job for us, and by all accounts, they've won a double last season, I get that, but if we want to be serious and we want to, really reach the ambition and the potential we can as a club, and I honestly do believe Celtic have it in them to progress in Europe. It's just a case of actually going out, identifying these players, throwing the money at them, offering them the right good wages to come here, and it's an attractive prospect to be at Celtic. When you look at the history of the club, you look at the chance to, not a lot of football players in their career will get a chance to win what you do at Celtic, Hamish. That's a fact. You add that into it, and the fact that, again, third season in a row that we're in the Champions League. Like, a lot of players will be all in for that. It's just about the powers that be at Celtic having the same ambition as the likes of me and you, and I get it. Right, it's not just that easy, and I know there's a lot of risks involved in it. But see if the club took a risk, right? They spent, mate, they spent big money on a few players for the Champions League, right? See if it
Well,
didn't
6,
work.
7, 8 million, something like that on a
Aye,
few
7,
different
8 million,
players.
right? Just on a few,
Yeah.
off them big money, right? Disjointed the team. It didn't work out. Say we were a horror show in the Champions League, right? And by all accounts, it derailed us and these players, and then just didn't have it. Fine. The club actually took the risk and they went, "Do you know what? We tried. We actually went out. We identified these players. We spent the money. It didn't work out." And I would be like, "Well, fair play. Fair play for doing that instead of going with players at 2 and 3 million that you just know they'll be okay. They'll be fine, but they're not going to make a massive impact for us in the Champions League." That's just where my mindset of it comes from.
Yeah. But you look at, from memory, and you've probably got a better Celtic memory than me, but certainly over the last 10 years when we have spent big money, 6 million plus, so I'm talking Edward, Chris Julian, Jota, Cameron Carter-Vickers, there might be other ones, you do invariably get what you pay for. I know people might look, Christopher Julian was a fine signing for Celtic. He gave us some big moments. I wouldn't say, I think 7 million he cost. I wouldn't say that was a disaster at all. He got an injury and it didn't end well, but you get what you pay for with these guys when you splash out the money. So I almost, like, in a weird way, if the club are going to that 6, 7, 8 million level, which I think as fans we want them to, I almost trust them more at that level to get it right than with 2-3 million pound projects. I think there's a big gap in what you get as a club like Celtic between 7 million and 3 million. And I know, again, that might sound obvious, there's 4 million in it, but I think you get proven players who can do stuff in the Champions League for that price, whereas the 3 million stuff, you might occasionally get a Matt O'Reilly, a Real Hatate, but you also might get, players like Yang, all due respect to him, and other guys who Rodgers takes a look at and doesn't really fancy, Lager, Bielka, Naropsky, etc.
Yep, I agree with you fully. And if you also look back at when we spent 6 million, back then on Chris Sutton in 2000, like at that time, that 6 million, was big money.
Yeah.
I would say 6, 7 million now is just an average. It's still small time money to be paying for a football player. I would say in this day and age, but that 6 million back then for Chris Sutton, I mean, look at what it got us, and that was huge for us at the time. But yeah, and you look at it now, and obviously even 6 million is just very, very basic figures to be paying. I think Celtic can and should be reaching higher. Look, big thing is they boast and they go on about the profits and how wealthy they are. So it's time to put the money where the mouth is and actually spend it. You know what I mean? I'm not unrealistic. I'm not asking for a lot here. I'm not asking us to go into a lot of financial bother by throwing, and spending like 50 million. That ain't going to happen. But honestly, if I could just see the club just thinking differently and not just spending just 2 and 3 million on a couple of players in the next few weeks, I would be happy enough with that and then take it for there. Frankly, I'm just sick of moaning about it. I'm sure a lot of fans don't want to do this. You're saying as well, you've seen posts and comments, and I'm just going with what I'm saying, to yourself, Rizzo, and a few other close mates on my phone. Don't really see the general sort of what the Celtic supporters are saying, but it's good to know I'm not alone in that respect. Must be the first time. Must be the first time there, Hamish. But I'm just sick of constantly moaning and seeing the same moans about it. And if the club took a risk, great. I think that's all you can ask from them at this point. They've got nothing to lose. They're in a very strong position on and off the park. You know what I mean?
I think that's how we feel as fans. Just let's go for it. Again, no fan is saying go and buy, him for 14 million and him for another 14 million. Like, this is a reasonable thing for a club who have nearly 100 million in the bank. Just go and sign a few players who can actually improve the team, that we can genuinely look at and go, right, left back, we've upgraded that position. Centre back, we've upgraded that. wing, etc. What we should say here is that Brendan Rodgers is still pretty calm and seems pretty confident that we're going to get in what we need before the end of August when the transfer window shuts. These are some quotes after the Man City game. I had a long meeting with Michael and Chris today. We know the targets we want to bring in. Still a long way to go in the window. Our concentration is that we know what we want to do, the priority positions we want to improve. While the club is getting on with that, myself and the coaches were really focused on the improvements of this team, physically, tactically and technically. At some point before the end of August, I'd expect us to have the players we want in. I'll make it clear to the Celtic supporters we want to improve, get better. We don't want to stand still this season. We know we want to improve the squad, and by the end of the window shutting, I'd expect us to do that. Stephen McGowan in his report is once again mentioned Burnley defender Darrell O'Shea and Antwerp winger Michel-Ange Balikwisha. So it seems like those are two guys that Rodgers is keen on. They maybe were featured prominently in the discussions he had with Michael Nicholson and Chris Mackay. I think these quotes confirm something I've been thinking for a wee while, that like as fans we're talking about wanting to get players in for certain deadlines. We've kind of set our own deadlines, the US trip. We need a goalkeeper in for the US trip, and that kind of happened. We need players in for the first game against Kilmarnock. I think the reality here is the club only have one deadline, and that's August the 30th at 11:30 p.m. when the Scottish window closes. I think that's the deadline Celtic are working to here. So I think as fans, if we're expecting anything to be in before any other deadlines, we're going to be disappointed. Now, I still feel as fans that we're right, and I think the club should be doing business earlier, because that's what we did under Ange Postecoglou. We didn't wait until the end. Okay, we did in the first window because he was just in and he had so much work to do, but his other three windows, we did work early. Remember, we had Hatate, Maida and Ideguchi announced before the window had even opened, and we had Alistair Johnson announced before the window had even opened, and we had Jota and Carter Vickers and Matt O'Reilly. I think Matt O'Reilly was slightly later in January.
Matt O'Reilly was like the second week in January or something, I believe.
Yeah.
Remember he played against Hearts and Tynecastle.
Yeah. So my point being, I think as supporters, like that was the proper Celtic we want to see in the window. So I don't think we're unrealistic to say we want stuff in early. But my point here is that I don't think the club really care about that. The club only have one deadline, and as I say, it's August the 30th at 11:30. I guess if we get in everything we need at that stage, Stevie, you have to say that it has been a successful window. And we do still have a month in 5 or 6 days. But my worry is the same thing happens at last year. And I think if you look at quotes from Rodgers last year, I've not done this, but I'd assume this is the case. I'm guessing he'd be saying pretty similar things at this stage, and we know what a joke that window turned into, and we really panicked at the end, Nat Phillips, etc. So I really hope that the club are more organised this year, and at the very least it doesn't go down to the last 2 or 3 days of the window and we need like 4 players in.
Yeah, I mean, they were strong words from Brendan, and I'm going to choose to believe that everything he said in that was sincere. You know, he's earned the backing and the benefit of the doubt from the fans, certainly this season. I know there was a lot of question marks last season, but no, certainly everybody has to be backing him, and I include the Celtic hierarchy in that one as well. There's no reason for them not to. And I do believe that if he does get the full backing, then he will deliver more success ways. But again, I'm also including the more success there being in Europe. That's a key part of it. I think as well, the way we're talking about players coming in, I mean, we have to get rid of a lot of players as well. And what does concern me is the fact that blatantly Rodgers doesn't fancy guys like Lagerbielke and Kobayashi. But I mean, it's the fact that Lagerbielke is still hanging around the squad and everything, and are we going to wait till like the very last couple of days of the window before he's like punted? Like, should have been, as much as it's a priority in getting players in, it's also should be a priority in getting guys that certainly aren't going to be featuring for us out the club, so that we can get a healthy. I'm sick of this big bloated squad we've got as well. Really need to trim that and get players in. You know, that will be able to feature for us. No more of these fringe players either. Guys that will be able to come in and do a job for us. Like, and should a good mix of it too. Players that were ready all come off the bench and perform. We need that. We need so many like today players in the squad, but also guys who aren't going to be kicking the ball for us again need to be leaving just as quickly as the guys coming in. I agree with what you said about how quickly we get the business done as well, Hamish. It's a key factor. But again, without revealing my age, and don't say I'm in my 50s, please, I have seen time and time again summer and winter windows where Celtic just leave it to the very last minute. And I would not be shocked if it's done again. I would hope not, but I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, I would settle down everyone. I think it is going to go certainly well into August, but at least we've got proper football coming back. 10 days' time, Steve. We've got a game against Chelsea this weekend as well, which should be a good test, our final test. Anything else you want to say before we head off?
Just that's almost Thursday for me, a minute to midnight.
It's actually midnight for you right now. Wow.
That's some shift in it. Also, here's one for you. I think I'm going to watch the Chelsea game. It's at 9 o'clock. I won't be in my bed. I'll stay up for that one for you, right? There you go. A wee promise.
That's commitment. Wow, imagine staying up till
11
p.m.
Staying up to watch the team that you supported since you're a wee guy. I mean, staggering stuff.
Yeah, I think it's 6 a.m. here, so that's not amazing, but...
No, mate, no excuses. You've got to be watching that game.
I do, yeah. Right, okay. Thanks for watching, everyone. Stevie, you can see us off again for this video, as is becoming the custom.
Right, a very quick one. You know where to find Hamish. Search Celtic AM on YouTube. Thank you to the legends for getting Hamish and us over 8,000 now. Truly, truly, what a fan base you are. The old heads and the new heads. We welcome everyone. Myself, Hamish certainly does. I'm very prejudiced and bitter. Don't worry about that. But honestly, as you can tell, the parter levels are dwindling here. It's midnight for me. It's the morning for Hamish, and I'm going to go back to watching Family Guy before bed and watch Peter fighting that big chicken. That really was a classic.